I actually kept my wand, but it doesn't work. So.
I wanted my wedding ring, but I think it was probably a tad too expensive. It was this beautiful pearl, and it was, signified emotionally. It was very lovely, but I don't sadly have it.
So, any more questions? Yes, wait for the microphone, please.
Lisa Streifeld, Huffington Post Arts. Thank you. So magical. Cinderella, above all, is a story of transformation. So tell us how you manage these unbelievable, magical transformations, with the digital, and how the actors worked with them. So it was so seamless.
Actually, Ali Shermer, who's one of our excellent producers. Do you want to talk about that, Ali?
I remember when we were filming the transformation sequence out in the garden behind Cinderella's house. And I knew in my heart what the imagery was that Ken wanted to create and what the end product would be. And I watched Helena and Lily interact and to tell the story of every aspect of what would happen in that greenhouse and how that pumpkin would transform, knowing that we were mostly holding a little ball in its place. And it was really the skill of these actors and the ability of Ken to communicate the story and the imagination of what would take place that really accomplished what you saw in the final film. I mean, there was magnificent visual effect that was created by our partners. David, it was DNAG?
It was,
and the partnership with the visual effects company was extraordinary, but it was really so completely told in the filming in those very cold, brutal nights that I would say the magic was in the performance and in our direction.
Okay, question on the right, please.
Hi there, Mike Ruddy from Reuters. Since all of the women up there will be role models for the entire planet's female population, I'd like to ask you what you think the message is that you've gotten across from this.
Well, message, I don't know about message, but what amongst the many things that are in there, I mean, I think are sometimes, for instance, the uncomfortable recognition that we may see as much of ourselves in the stepmother and stepsister's behavior and motivations as we do in those who we would perhaps want to initially feel were representing us. But what I love about what Kate did and what Holiday and Sophie, who played the stepsisters, did was to have an evolution. Their characters changed and responded to circumstance. I believe for the first time that Cinderella's father, who so loved her mother, would nevertheless be wowed by this, gorgeous gal, and that all of that made a certain kind of sense, and that when he went, that their motivations would change. And so those had a sort of, in a way, I suppose message is a loaded word, but what is in there reflected of life is an understanding that life is messy, there are lots of grey areas, and that even though this is a fairy tale where one might expect it to be a little more black and white, thanks to the performances, I think, and the script here, I think that complexity, even inside something that has heightened situations, it has magic, it has extreme sort of moments like the ball, etc. Nevertheless, there is quite a subtle reflection of how difficult it can be sometimes to be a human being, and how hard it is sometimes to find personal happiness. So I don't know about the message, but the reflections and considerations there are across a whole range of issues, from what does real love really mean? What does real happiness really mean? Is it things? Is it a person? Is it a partnership? Or is it perhaps how you feel about yourself and the moment that you are in? All of those things are in there richly in that tale in its original form. Yep, absolutely.
Can I just say something to... when Disney first came to us and talked about a version of Cinderella, I had the experience of being lucky enough to work on a movie called The Hunger Games. And we had a very strong female protagonist in that movie. And what was really, truly evolutionary and magnificent about Ken's take on Cinderella is that her strength wasn't necessarily overt. It wasn't in the way she held a bow and arrow, and it wasn't that she was given a shield or a sword.